Welcome, everybody. I'm Mara Iroldi. I am the Academic Director of the Government Outcome Lab. It is my pleasure to welcome you today to our 2022 Spring Hack and Learn. This is the kickoff session. The Hack and Learn, as those of you who joined in the past, will last over 2 weeks and is hosted by the INDIGO, the International Network for Data on Impact and Government Outcomes here at the University of Oxford. We are doing it in partnership with our friends from the Center for Social Impact and Philanthropy at Ashoka University, and we have Gautam, who will say a few words in a moment. They are based in India. We have Inspire Matrices in Brazil, also co-hosting the event today, and I will shortly pass the word to Sandro to say a few words. What is happening today? I am just very excited. You are all here. And today we are seeing the ideas and challenges that we are inviting you to take part in so that we can generate more ideas and ways to use data to contribute to better social outcomes. We are extremely grateful for the support of our co-hosts, and they are a key part of the event. INDIGO is a data collaborative. If it's designed with you, and it changes with you and with our co-hosts who take an active part on shaping where we are going. So I will take a few minutes to allow our co-hosts to introduce themselves. And maybe I'll come to you first, Sandro, if you can say a few words about Inspire.
Well, good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening. I don't know where you are right now. Here for us is good morning. I'm Sandro Cabral. I'm a professor of strategy and public management here at the Inspire. It's a private non-profit institution in São Paulo, Brazil. In the past few years, we have been developing several activities on the social impact bonds and outcome-based contracts realm. Thanks to these efforts, our paths crossed with the Go Lab path. So we have stars aligned, and we have lots of activities in common. So we have been working together in several activities, including this Hack and Learn. For those who do not know the Hack and Learn, in the past few years we had some amazing activities in which junior scholars and more senior scholars around the globe interacted in order to develop and push that agenda. And also this has good implication for practice as well. So we are happy to co-host this event. We're excited about that, and we are more than glad to interact with you should you have any inquiry or question or need any help. Thank you so much, Mara, for organizing this. Thank you so much, Juliana, for your relentless effort.
Thank you, Sandra. Can I come to you, Gautam? Can you say a few words about you and Ashoka?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Gautam Bike. Glad to have you all here who have signed up for this challenge. Really excited to have you here. Basically, CSIP, as part of Ashoka University, is India's first academic center focused on enabling strategic and robust philanthropy for greater impact. We look forward to working with you all on this challenge that we have designed, and looking forward to the fun.
Thank you, Gautam. We also have Rodana from FCDO, who has been supporting our work from the very first Hack and Learn. Rodana, do you want to say a few words?
Yes. Hi, Mara. Hi, everybody. Rodana Krova joining from FCDO in London. We are a long-time fan of GoLab and partner. We find these Hack and Learn sessions really fascinating in talking to all of you and in really addressing some of the biggest challenges we have in terms of data visualization, in terms of making information better accessible to the outcomes-based financing market. So thanks for joining. It's great to be here with you, and I'm looking forward to the session today.
Thank you, Rodana. And I think we have Caroline from Village Enterprise.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm Caroline Bonadi from Village Enterprise. At Village Enterprise, we operate a graduation out of poverty program. So we equip people in extreme poverty to start small businesses in East Africa. And we launched the first development impact bond for poverty alleviation in sub-Saharan Africa back in 2017. And we're very excited about the result that we just released a few weeks ago. And we would really love, people from the I Can Learn to basically help us, right, visualize and explain those results to policymakers and other practitioners, because we really hope to scale result-based financing within our own operation, but also to help other service providers in the poverty alleviation outcome, like in the poverty alleviation space, do so. And so, your help in data visualization of the result of our RCT would be extremely helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Caroline. And can I highlight how grateful we are to Village Enterprise for sharing the data, because the community around INDIGO is really excited to play with data and creative visualization, but if we don't have data to play with, it's less fun. So thank you so much for volunteering your data for this Hack and Learn challenge. And finally, but not lastly, we are coming to the Education Outcome Fund, who are also supporting one of the challenge. And I think we have with us Charlie Deming.
Yes, hi everybody. So a brief overview of EUF is that our overall ambition is to address the learning crisis and improve learning and improvement outcomes through tying funding to measurable results and impact through outcomes-based commissioning. And our Sierra Leone program is a partnership with the government of Sierra Leone and FCDO and other donors, with an aim to understand what works to improve learning outcomes in basic education in Sierra Leone. And it will be one of the largest outcomes-based funded programs at $17 million and reaching over 100,000 children in over 300 schools. And the program is very exciting for us because we'll be working with the government of Sierra Leone to ultimately understand how to best achieve these learning outcomes, which will help ultimately implement the education policy and scale up these results in the future. And the Hack and Learn challenge is quite exciting because it's very timely, because key to understanding what works in our program is our learning agenda, which will help us understand how the outcomes achieve their results. And a core component of this is our data platform, which we're currently developing, and so any concrete and fresh ideas which come from this challenge will ultimately be used to help us really understand the impacts and how they work. So, yeah, it's very exciting and timely for us, and yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing more. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. So we are ready to get going, but not quite. So before we go on our challenge description, I want to pass the word to Juliana, who is our data steward. Probably you've been in contact, many of you have been in contact with her already. And she will give a short presentation about the INDIGO Hack and Learn. As just a small housekeeping, as you might have noticed, the session is being recorded because there are people joining from all over the world, and we would like to make the recording available so that they can learn from the challenges and decide which challenge to join for this Hack and Learn. So it is recorded, but please, we are really keen to keep it interactive. If you can, keep your camera on and keep your question coming in the chat. We will address some of them at the end of the session, or we will respond through our Slack channel. We'll find a way to reach you with a satisfactory answer, hopefully. So now I'll stop here and I'll pass the word to Juliana for her quick introduction about INDIGO. Juliana.
Thank you, Mara. So what I want to do now is to give a brief introduction to INDIGO and to tell you a bit more about our Hack and Learn event and why it is so important to us. So our INDIGO initiative is an emerging data collaborative with the goal of helping policymakers and practitioners to make a better use of data to improve social outcomes. So basically what we believe, and we are convinced of this, is that if we use better data, we'll provide better insights, and better insights will then help practitioners and policymakers to design better programs and better policies. So our community is a key part of our INDIGO initiative, because we also know that it is not enough to just have data sets or to have a big collection of data in one website, but it is also necessary to have a community that is making sense of this data and is providing insights that are useful for the space of outcome-based contracting. Our community is very diverse. We have people coming from all over the world and people coming from very different policy domains. So it's really, really diverse, and it's a very fun community to interact. Our Hackathon is the event or the opportunity that we have to connect with this community and to work for 2 weeks with you and to know what you have been up to. So this is why the Hackathon is such an important event for us. Now I want to say a few words about the different steps in our Hackathon event. So we have a kickoff session. This kickoff session is today. And the most important thing from today is that you pick a challenge to work on and you find your Slack channel and you find your Slack chat in your Slack channel. You will then have 2 weeks to work with your challenge leader. Your challenge leader will lead the work. But how you work is completely up to you. Some teams decide to have more Zoom calls and they decide to talk between them. Some other teams prefer to work in an asynchronous way and they just chat on Slack. Both ways are completely fine. It's completely up to you how you want to work. On the 7th of April, we will have a show and tell session where we all get together, we show our results, and we share our learnings, we share our reflections, and it is also a good opportunity to challenge your fellow colleagues from other groups. We are all invited then to write a blog about this experience and to present it in our INDIGO peer learning session, which will happen on the 26th of May. And you're all invited to contribute to that piece. Finally, I also want to share with you some tips from experience. And I think these tips could be very helpful for you to make the most of this Hackathon event. So the first thing I want to say is that you have to choose one challenge as your primary challenge and let the challenge leader know that this is your primary challenge and you're going to work with him or her. It is completely fine to be curious. Some people decide to sign up for all the Slack chats because they want to see what is happening in other teams. That's completely fine, and we do encourage that. But we will also ask you to let your challenge leader know in which teams you are working and in which teams you just want to see what the challenge is about. Your challenge leader is your main point of help, so please feel free to ask him or her any questions that you may have. And you will get only 10 minutes to show your results at the show and tell session. Of course, we don't expect you to have a final solution for such complex problems, but just an idea of potential ways to address them. Maybe you don't have, maybe it's just a prototype. Maybe you only share some learnings of these 2 weeks of work. It's completely up to you. We don't expect to have a final product. And finally, while you're working, it is also a good idea to write down your ideas and opinions about this experience, because we'll write a blog all together later. So it's good to have some reflections and some things to write about. So this will be my main tips for you if you want to make the most of this Hackathon event. And now it is back to Mara, so we can start doing our challenges pitches.
Thank you, Juliana. So this is the moment. I'm really excited to be co-chairing this new Hackathon because the challenges this time round were really amazing. Here you see the highlights of the challenges. Now I'll pass the microphone to each of the challenge leaders, and I ask them to spend maximum 5 minutes to do a pitch so that you have a basic ideas of what the challenge is about. And at the end, they will ask you to join this dedicated Slack channel if you want to contribute. As Juliana said, the challenge leader, mark their name, is your first point of contact on Slack or on the chat now. We will come to question at the end of the session, but now I'm going through a quick fire of challenge after challenge. Post your question in the chat, and the challenge leader might pick up the question as we go along, and then we will stop at the end if we want to pick up particular question. Our first challenge leader is Georges from Inspire Matrices. I'll pass the word to you, Georgie.
Everyone, I'm George, and I will present challenge 19. Please, next slide, please. This challenge joins two interesting topics, social impact bonds and sustainable development goals. In one side, we have social impact bonds. That's one form of outcome-based contracting. And in this partnership between investor and service providers, it aims to improve the social outcome for specific groups. And these social outcomes generally are related to one or more than just one sustainable development goals from the United Nations. Next slide, please. So trying to make it clear what we're going to do. Here we have some examples of outcomes from some projects. And here we have some examples of SDGs that we are going to link. For instance, we may have a project related to improve the quality of pediatric care, which is somehow related to SDG number 3, which is good health and well-being. Another example may be a project to improve the probability of younger unemployed to become employed, which is related to SDG number 8, decent work and economic growth. Finally, a final example here, we may have a contract aiming to improve the quality of education, which is closely related to SDG number 4, quality of education. So here, what we are going to do in this challenge basically is try to link the outcome of a contract to one or more SDG. So next slide, please. And something very interesting from this challenge is that we are going to use real data. So we are going to use the data from the INDIGO's impact bond dataset, which brings information from all over the world. So that's one interesting point from this challenge. Next, please. And as a final result, we are going to produce a Sankey diagram linking the social outcomes to the SDGs. That's a nice way to show how these two social outcomes and the SDGs are somehow related. Next, please. And how we're going to do this? Basically, we have an Excel spreadsheet where we are going to point which SDGs are related to the outcomes of these contracts. And then after that, we are going to produce the Sankey diagram. So next, please. So this is challenge 19. Come to join us. So thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you, Georgie. And don't worry if you didn't have time to write the challenge. We will post the slide online, and we will put things on our social media. We will find a way to reach you. So don't worry, you will have access to all this information again. Let's move on. Let's go to Mayra, who is pitching the Sparks challenge. Mayra.
Thank you, Mara. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this Hack and Learn. And I'm going to present to you challenge number 20, the Sparks challenge. And first of all, what does Sparks stand for? So Sparks is the Strategic Procurement, Applied Research and Knowledge Sharing challenge. And it's also, Sparks is also a new working group we have here at the Go Lab. So this challenge is related to this working group. Next, please. Yeah. The challenge focuses on outcomes frameworks and strategic procurement. And what do I mean when I say strategic procurement? So many governments around the world are using public contracts to pursue economic, social, and environmental goals beyond the services that they are procuring. And this has different names around the world, but here we'll call it social value. What we want to do in this challenge is see if there is any relation between social value policies and government outcome frameworks in different countries. Next, please. We want to gather examples of social outcome frameworks and social value policies and see if we can find any relation there. And we'll do this by building a spreadsheet of government outcome frameworks and strategic public procurement policies. One example that I can quote here is Scotland's National Performance Framework, which is an outcomes framework, and also Scotland's Community Benefit Clauses requirement, which is their social value policy in place. So that would be one example of two things that we could populate the spreadsheet with. We might be able to create a map and visualizations with the data that we gather. And we hope to use this information in the future to explore how effective different policies and practices are on different outcomes in different contexts. And here in the next slide, we have just an example of the, yeah, you can click it. Thank you. Of the spreadsheet we'll be working on. And that's it. I hope you guys can join us. The challenge leader for this challenge, of course, I'm presenting here today, but we'll also be joined by Rory McDonald. He couldn't be here today, but he will be on our Slack channel. And so if any of you have any questions, please feel free to drop me a line or Rory as well. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayra. And we are now coming to our next challenge that is presented by Divya, and is the challenge on foreign philanthropy funds in India. Divya.
Yeah. Good evening from India. Hi, I'm Divya Chopra from the Center for Social Impact and Philanthropy at Ashoka University. And the challenge for you all is to analyze the trend of foreign philanthropy in India. Next slide, please. So at Center mandate, we collect data on social impact and philanthropy in India, different forms of philanthropy, one of which is foreign philanthropy in India. So any social impact organization working in India, which wants to gain foreign funding, has to apply for a Foreign Contribution Regulation Act under the Ministry of Home Affairs. So what we have is a data set by Ministry of Home Affairs on the foreign fundings received by the NGOs, the organizations working in the social impact space. Now, the problem with this data set is that it's fairly complex. It's available across different sheets, and it's difficult to make sense of the data. So the challenge for you all is, next slide, please. Yes, so the challenge is for us to standardize the data set in the first go, and then try and make sense of it. So try and do a trend analysis of foreign funding for the last 3 years, try and understand in which all sectors and which all Indian states the foreign funding is going into. So the participants are expected to point out data gaps and inconsistencies, if any. And the format in which the analysis can be presented can be a report, a presentation, or an infographic. And I will be the challenge leader for this. If at all there's any change that you would like to make to this challenge, I'm happy to discuss this. Next slide, please. So I've put the link for the data set, but I'll put this on the Slack channel too. Yeah, I made it very quick. Thank you. So please, I hope you all find this interesting and you'll join the challenge. Thank you, Mara.
Thank you, Divya, and providing a data set to download straight away is very tempting, I have to say. We now come to Juliana, who will present the last 2 challenges that have been proposed today. And the one challenge has been proposed by Village Enterprise. As Caroline mentioned at the beginning, introducing Village Enterprise, Village Enterprise has kindly offered the data that some of the data that they collected through the RCT that's been conducting for their project. And so we will have the opportunity to work with this data. And also the Education Outcome Fund is willing to take some of their busy time to work with us to think about what a data platform might be developed and what is helpful from the data that are available to inform decision making. So Juliana, can you tell us something about our guests?
Yes, thank you, Mara. So the first challenge that I will introduce is the Village Enterprise Challenge. And I think that first I need to say something about Village Enterprise. Village Enterprise or the Village Enterprise program is a poverty graduation scheme that equips people living in extreme poverty with cash transfer, mentoring, and training to create income generating and sustainable businesses and saving groups for these different families and households. And it is expected that this program will help families break the cycle of poverty. So in 2017, this program adopted an impact bond framework, and this means that the program would only receive payments if certain outcome metrics were achieved, and there was validation of those outcome metrics. So what were those metrics? There were two main outcome indicators. So the first one was an increase in consumption of the household, and the second one was an increase in the stock of assets of the household. Of course, this was measured in a more complex way, but that's something that we can explain later on our Slack channels. And this is how the framework of the development impact bond worked. So Village Enterprise was the service provider. They were implementing in the field this poverty graduation program. To start, they needed some capital because as this was an impact bond, they would only claim for payments when they could prove that they achieved outcomes. So to start, they needed some upfront capital that was provided by a group of social investors. We also have ID Insight, who was the official evaluator of this program. And when ID Insight ran an evaluation, and ID Insight could certify that outcomes were achieved and that there was a significant difference between the control group and the treatment group, only after that moment, Village Enterprise could claim for payments from the outcome payers. The outcome payers in this case were the FCTO, USA, and some other philanthropic funds that were based in the US. So this is the basic organization of, and a very brief introduction of the different roles that different organizations were playing in this development impact bond. What data do we have to work in this challenge? Something else that I want to say is that this development impact bond has finished. So the final evaluation of ID Insight is also finished. They ran a very large and complex RCT evaluation. And this is the data that we have to work in this challenge. We have some data that ID Insight kindly shared with us from the RCT results. This is just a screenshot of what the spreadsheet looks like. But what I want to show here is that this is very big and large and complex data. And part of the challenge today is to look at this data and to find a way of presenting this information in a simple and accessible way. I think there is here. So this is the slide that was missing. Data is large and complex, so what we are trying to do here is to see a way of presenting these results in a simple and accessible way. And also, we also want to see how we can present this information to policymakers in a quick and easy to understand way. So the idea here is imagining that we are working for Village Enterprise and we want to share the information of this program to a policymaker who only has 5 minutes or 10 minutes to dedicate to our proposal. So what would you show? What are the variables that you would choose to present to the policymaker? What are the data visualizations that you think would be compelling and easy to understand? Those are the things that we are going to be working on. And we're going to be in Slack channel number 22. And I really hope that this is interesting to you and you can come and join us. And this leads me to the second challenge that I'll be leading this Hack and Learn event, which is the Education Outcome Fund Challenge. And the first thing that you need to do if you want to work in this challenge is to know what an outcomes fund is. And in this sense, I will defer to our INDIGO data definitions, where we say that an outcomes fund is an approach that enables several outcome-based contracts to be developed and supported in parallel. And we can say that outcome funds signal a commitment to pay for social outcomes rather than inputs or activities. I also want to flag that some people tend to confuse outcome funds and investment funds. So outcome funds is the fund that pays for outcomes at the end of the impact bond. Investment fund is investment that provides upfront capital at the beginning of the impact bond. So now we are focusing on the outcomes fund, which comes at the end or maybe at the middle of the project. What is the Education Outcomes Fund? The Education Outcomes Fund is an ambitious effort to significantly improve learning and employment outcomes by tying funding to measurable results. And the main idea behind this fund is to scale up result-based financing in education with the aim of improving the effectiveness of spending and transforming the lives of vulnerable people. And our challenge today is designing a data platform for the Education Outcome Fund. Again, the challenge here is to think as if you were working for the Education Outcome Fund and you need to design a data platform. Imagine that you are an outcomes fund and you need to keep track of the performance of very different projects. And these very different projects are led by different service providers. And some of these projects may have different outcome metrics. So it's not that you are keeping track of the same metric, but you have several outcome metrics distributed across several different projects. So it's really difficult to keep track of such a complex outcome fund. And we need to design a data platform that will enable people like you and me to keep track of these projects. What will we do? The first thing that you do when you design a data platform is to think of the use cases. So who is this data platform for? What do we need to make sure that all Education Outcomes Fund employees can use this data platform in a convenient way? So for instance, if you are the outcome funder, we are thinking, what's the data that you want to see? What are the variables that you want to see? What's the frequency that you need to have this data updated? If you're the service provider or the investor and you need to upload data to the system, well, how do you want to upload this data? How can we make it easy for you to upload this data, or how can we make it more practical for you? And if you are maybe the director of learnings of the Outcomes Fund, what's the best way to share this data and these learnings with the wider community? Maybe we need to think of a way of exporting data. Maybe we need to think of different privacy levels to make sure that you export some data and you share it, and some other data you just keep it for yourself. So this is the challenge. This is the Education Outcomes Fund challenge. As you can see, this is more a conceptual challenge, but it's a very, very interesting one. And I hope you also think this is exciting and that you can join me in Slack channel number 23. And that's it. It's back to Mara again.
Thank you, Juliana. So now that you had an overview, and actually before we come to how we sign up to the Slack challenge, I wonder if I can bring James or Ben to introduce themselves, because during the Hack and Learn, we have some technical support team. So you come up with the idea and you say, wouldn't it be great if we could plot this variable against this variable? Wouldn't it be great if we can import data from this other data set that exists, and I know it's on an open data set? And we have some magicians behind the scenes. And if Ben, can you introduce yourself, or James? I'm not sure Ben is here, so.
I'm here.
Voila! I didn't see you.
Yeah, I'm Ben from Data Services, and yeah, we're here to help support people with the technical side of stuff around the data. James?
James, can you say something about the previous Hack and Learn? What you did and what worked well?
Yes, hello. It was very interesting working with the teams over the last Hack and Learn, and seeing all the sort of different viewpoints and different experiences people had. So looking forward to this Hack and Learn. I'm afraid I can only be here for the first week, but looking forward to working with everyone.
Thank you, James. So now that you had time to think, you had a lot of time to think which challenge you might be interested in, here are some instructions from Mayra on how the Slack channels work and how you sign up for one and how you use them. Mayra, how does it work?
Yes, perfect. Thank you, Mara. So I'm going to go through with you guys how to join our Slack channel. And once you're in there, you can choose the challenges that you like the most and you want to join. And let me reassure everyone that Slack is very intuitive. The tool is easy and it's supposed to be helpful and not a barrier of any kind to you joining the Hack and Learn, okay? So we will drop a link in the chat, and all you have to do is click on that link and open it, basically. And you will see this screen when you do that. So once you are here in this screen, you can sign up using your email, and you click on continue. And let's go. Yeah, thank you. Once you have the Slack app, on the left side of the screen, you can see this tab right here. And in there, you can find the channels. And there is a small plus sign there in channels. If you click on this plus sign, you will browse through all the channels we have, all the chats you can join, which is the, as you can see here on the right side of the screen. And then you will basically, what you do is join the challenges that you're interested in. If you have any questions, just drop us a line. You can send me an email, you can send Juliana an email, and we'll be happy to help. And here are the names and numbers of the challenges that we went through. So for example, the first challenge, the linking social outcome metrics and SDGs, is hacking number 19. The reason that we don't start from number 1 is because we take into consideration the other challenges from the previous hacks and learns. So that's why we're starting on number 19 now. And then the Sparks challenge number 20 and so on. If you need, next one, please. If you need any help with your data, or if you have any questions regarding IT, you can use this channel, the Hack Technical Help. And if you want to talk to other participants to see who else is joining, you can use the Networking Lounge channel. If you have any questions, please let us know. As I said, it is meant to be intuitive and easy to use. So we're here to help with anything you need. And the next one. Yeah, I think we can go over to the questions now. If you guys have any questions, please post them and we'll go.
There are some questions. There is an OP question, which is, can we please have the link that you mentioned so we can start playing with Slack in the chat? That would be great. Thank you, Michael. There are a couple of questions already in the chat, and raise your hand or put the question in the chat. We are coming to your question now. There is a question from Quentin, who said he likes all the challenges, so he's struggling to actually, Quentin, can I come to you and you just formulate your question for us?
Sure. I've been very interested in the role of engagement, community engagement, and other stakeholders in shaping the outcomes and measures that teams are working with. And I wondered if any of the teams that are options here this morning or this afternoon your time are if this relates to your work. I don't want to kind of push an issue on somebody where it doesn't really relate to their plan, but I was just curious whether any of the teams feels like that's related to their work and are also trying to engage, get public engagement in their work.
I think I can take that one.
Yeah.
Great. So this is hi, Quentin. I really think that this list of 5 challenges that we have today are not specifically directed for the topic that you're mentioning, but we ran a Hack and Learn last year, and we had a group that was named the User Voice Challenge, which was a very interesting one, dedicated to see how much the user or the service beneficiary voice was taken into account when designing outcome metrics and designing impact bonds or other models of outcome-based contracts. So this is what we can do. You feel free to join any of the challenges that you want to join in this Hack and Learn, but I will put you in contact with the people who worked in this past event, because I know they are all still working with this idea of how do you take into account user voices. So I will just make a note here, and I will I make sure that you are in contact with these people, because I know they are still working on this.
Thank you. That's great.
Thank you, Quentin and Juliana. There is a question from Jonathan Brown, and I can see Elle had her hands up as well. Jonathan is asking if you can see results from past Hack and Learn, and I wonder, Juliana, if you can post links to the reports or slides from the show and tell from past Hack and Learn, so everybody can access them.
Yes, so I think there are several types of materials that I can share with you. We have, in the past Hack and Learns, we have written technical and learning reports, and those reports summarize all the challenges and the findings that, that we share in previous events. We also have the recordings of all the show and tell sessions, so you can see what the teams were actually able to achieve, which is really interesting, and you can keep track of the different, how some of this time we have original challenges, but sometimes we run the same challenge in different events, so you can actually see how the challenge evolves, and that's something very exciting. But yeah, I will share the recordings and the technical and learning reports. I think that will be very, very useful for you.
Thank you, Juliana. There is a suggestion to add some of this material on a Slack channel, maybe a general or resources that people can go to. Elle, you had your hands up.
Yeah, mine is just a quick, maybe a cheeky question, because I thought that a number of the challenges connecting outcome measures to SDGs, what Divya was saying, also the EOF challenge around the dashboard, these really lend themselves to different kinds of visualizations. And I was just wondering whether people had any tools or resources for generating ideas about what kind of visualization might work when. So where do people go to get their ideas for producing visualizations? Is there anything that you would suggest?
This was very cheeky. I go to James Buster. That's my quick answer. If you have example from past work where you find a very inspiring visualization, it would be great to hear. We love to copy good ideas and improve on those good ideas. Everything we are doing on INDIGO is open source. So the code that is going to be written will often recycle existing code, we make it better or worse, and then we post it back. So if you have suggestion of material that is available, we would love to hear about it. So there is our GitHub and in the chat for those who are able to make sense of it, not me. Any other question? Okay. If there are any other questions, I'll give back 15 minutes of your precious time. So you can, we will leave this line open if you want for those who are struggling to join the Slack channel. And so maybe the team, Juliana and Mayra, can help you. But the only thing that I have to say is to let the hacking begin. And I look forward to seeing you on the challenges and to see all of you again in the show and tell to see the progress that we've been doing over the 2 weeks. So thank you so much for today, and see you shortly on the other channel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.